The air in the subway station felt heavy and damp as I descended the staircase, the soft glow of the flickering fluorescent lights barely piercing the gloom. The distant rumble of a passing train echoed through the tunnels, and I shivered, wrapping my coat tighter around me. I had always been uncomfortable with the idea of being alone in such a place, especially at night, but I had no choice. The last train had left hours ago, and I had missed it. I glanced at the digital clock hanging on the wall, its numbers casting an eerie green glow. It was past midnight, and I was the only living soul in sight. The station felt like a forgotten relic, a place left behind by time. The walls were lined with faded posters and advertisements from years gone by, their colors muted and their messages irrelevant. There was a sense of isolation that settled in, a feeling of being cut off from the world above. I took a tentative step forward, the sound of my own footsteps echoing through the empty platform. Each footfall seemed to magnify in the silence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I tried to shake off the unease, reminding myself that it was just my imagination running wild in the darkness. But as I walked further down the platform, a cold breeze swept through the tunnels, causing the hairs on the back of my neck to stand on end. I quickened my pace, my heart racing in my chest. I reached the end of the platform and turned to head back the way I came, desperate to escape the unsettling sensation that was crawling under my skin. But as I turned, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. My head snapped to the side and I squinted into the darkness, my heart hammering even faster. There, at the edge of the platform, stood a figure. It was hunched over, its limbs elongated and twisted in unnatural angles. Its skin was a sickly pale color, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. I felt a chill run down my spine as I stared at the creature, paralyzed by fear. Its gaze seemed to pierce through me, and I couldn't tear my eyes away. As the figure slowly straightened up, I saw its mouth open in a grotesque grin, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. A guttural, inhuman sound emerged from its throat, a sound that seemed to vibrate within my own bones. I stumbled back, my breath coming in short gasps. This couldn't be real. It had to be a nightmare, a hallucination brought on by the isolation and darkness. But as I continued to watch, the figure began to move towards me, its movements jerky and unnatural. Panic surged through me, and I turned and ran in the opposite direction, my footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. I glanced over my shoulder, my heart pounding, and saw that the creature was gaining on me, its limbs contorting and twisting as it moved. I reached the staircase that led back to the surface and took the steps two at a time, my lungs burning with each breath. As I burst out into the night air, I stumbled onto the empty street, my chest heaving. I turned to look back at the entrance to the subway station, but there was no sign of the creature. It had vanished, as if it had never existed. I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath and make sense of what had just happened. Was it a trick of the mind? A manifestation of my deepest fears? I couldn't be sure. All I knew was that I never wanted to set foot in that subway station again. From that night on, I avoided the subway at all costs, opting for other forms of transportation even if it meant a longer journey. The memory of that twisted figure and its haunting gaze remained with me, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the city. And every time I passed by a subway entrance, I couldn't help but feel a shiver run down my spine, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying things are the ones that hide in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The subway station always took on a different character at night, a haunting demeanor that sent shivers down my spine as I descended the steps and entered its subterranean embrace. 11:45 p.m. blinked on my watch, the final train of the night imminent. I hastened my steps, the flickering overhead lights casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance along the platform walls. A draft colder than the night air above rustled my coat, contradicting the climate-controlled station. A knot of unease settled in my gut. Walking the platform, the rhythmic sound of water dripping echoed like a morbid melody. Each drip seemed like a distant heartbeat, synchronized with my cautious steps. The sensation of being watched grew stronger, a prickling on my neck that my rational mind tried to dismiss. I convinced myself it was just the product of a tired mind in an unfamiliar environment, but the feeling persisted. The distant rumble announced the approaching train. Relief washed over me. Soon I wouldn't be alone. I moved closer to the platform edge, peering down the dark tunnel. The train's light grew brighter, its metal-on-metal screech intensifying. Yet as it emerged from the tunnel's mouth, a chilling realization gripped me. The train was empty. My heart raced as it came to a halt before me. The doors slid open, revealing an abyss within. I hesitated, breath caught in my throat. This couldn't be right. The subway was never empty at this hour. Commuters, exhausted from the day, would always fill these cars, finding solace in the train's familiar rhythm. But the seats were vacant, and the aisles barren. A distorted voice crackling over the intercom sent shivers down my spine. "All aboard," it whispered, a cadence that was both inviting and sinister. Instinct urged me to retreat, heart pounding, as I contemplated the impossibility before me. The doors remained open, and a strange compulsion pulled me forward. Fear warred with curiosity, and before my thoughts could catch up, I stepped onto the vacant train. The doors sealed shut with an echoing finality. The car was bathed in an eerie, pale light that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Seats sat empty, windows portrayed a void, as if this train existed beyond reality. A silent journey began, smooth, noiseless. The rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks conspicuously absent. The sense of drifting, of being isolated in a dark expanse, was overpowering. I gripped a pole for support, knuckles turning white. There was something profoundly wrong here. And then the windows became mirrors. Mirrors reflecting a familiar yet uncanny sight. Faces. Featureless faces pressed against the glass, eyes vacant, but fixated on me. Panic lodged in my throat. These faces were human yet not, a grotesque parody of humanity. They seemed trapped, imprisoned, as if seeking escape from their translucent prisons. The train hurtled through the tunnels, and more faces appeared, each window a canvas for their silent screams. They multiplied, their silent agony saturating the air. A sense of claustrophobia gripped me, the walls closing in, the pale light casting sinister shadows that writhed like living entities on the floor. Abruptly, the train shuddered to a halt. The lights flickered and died, plunging the car into inky blackness. The air turned colder, the weight of being watched returned with vengeance. I fumbled for my phone, its pale glow providing fragile reassurance. The darkness seemed to take on a malevolent sentience, pressing in from all sides. It whispered, a cacophony of voices in languages beyond understanding. My grip on the phone tightened as I resisted the creeping madness. Time lost meaning. I was suspended, trapped between the oppressive void outside the train and the malevolent force within. The whispers swelled, desperate and demanding, my sanity hanging by a fragile thread. Then, a faint glimmer pierced the dark. The doors slid open, revealing my station's platform. I stumbled out, gasping for breath, the cool night air a soothing balm. The platform was empty. The malevolent faces and suffocating darkness vanished. I fled, the memory forever etched. The subway became a place of dread, a testament to the inscrutable terrors lurking in the shadows. And as I glanced back, I couldn't shake the feeling that the faces lingered, waiting for another to venture into their realm, to share in their torment once more. I had always been drawn to the mysteries of the night, to the unexplored corners where shadows whispered secrets and the mundane turned eerie. So when I found myself alone in a deserted subway station at the dead of night, it was a mix of thrill and trepidation that coursed through my veins. The last train had long departed, leaving me stranded amidst the dimly lit platform. The flickering overhead lights cast unsettling shadows that danced around, distorting the graffiti-covered walls into grotesque shapes. The silence was deafening, a silence only broken by the occasional distant rumble of a train passing through a nearby tunnel, a reminder of the world above. I tried to shake off the unease that settled in the pit of my stomach. With a deep breath, I walked further into the station, the sound of my footsteps amplified in the empty space. The air was damp and cool, carrying with it a musty scent that seemed to linger from another era. Every step I took echoed like a haunting whisper. As I ventured deeper into the station, the lighting grew sparser and the darkness more oppressive. The archaic advertisements on the walls depicted products from a bygone era, their once vibrant colors now faded and eerie. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. A soft shuffling sound echoed from a distant corner, and I froze. My heart pounded like a drum, and I strained my ears to catch any further noise. It was as though the very station itself was alive, breathing and watching. With every echoing beat of my heart, the station seemed to respond, amplifying the rhythm until the air throbbed with a palpable tension. A sudden chill crept down my spine as a voice, barely above a whisper, brushed against my ear. I turned around, expecting to see someone, but the station was still empty save for my own reflection in the grimy glass windows. Panic gnawed at my chest and my breath quickened. "I see you," the voice hissed, now louder and more sinister. My pulse raced and a cold sweat formed on my brow. There was no doubt now. I was not alone in this forsaken place. I stumbled backward, my steps echoing in the empty void. Every instinct in me screamed to run, to flee from this place of unnatural malevolence. But as I turned to escape, I saw figures in the distance, their forms shifting and wavering in the dim light. They moved like phantoms, their eyes fixed on me, gleaming with an otherworldly hunger. I ran, my footsteps echoing madly, bouncing off the walls in a symphony of terror. The figures pursued, their whispers growing louder, intertwining with the wailing of the wind that seemed to tear through the station. The world around me blurred as I sprinted, stumbling in the darkness, my heart racing like a runaway train. At last, the entrance to the station came into view, a beacon of salvation. I burst through the exit, stumbling out onto the empty streets, gasping for breath. Behind me, the station loomed like a malevolent beast, its presence haunting my every thought. As the first light of dawn broke the horizon, the terror began to fade, replaced by a strange mixture of relief and lingering unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that the subway station held secrets darker and deeper than I could ever comprehend. And though I had escaped its grasp, a part of me remained trapped in the subterranean desolation, forever haunted by the night I was alone in its chilling embrace.